Welcome to Real People, Real Life.
Mr. Scott Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to my little podcast.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
140,000 people will be watching you, at least.
That's no pressure.
Came back out to South Carolina to Eric's studio again. Got the South Carolina flag, American flag, as a backdrop. Mm-hmm. You're a friend of Eric, just like
Yes.
I am. And what I wanted to talk to you about is just have some fun.
Yeah,
There's some conspiracy theories and your ideas. We're going to get our tinfoil hats on, and we're going to just kind of talk about some of these interesting concepts. I want to start with the whole drones and aliens and things people are talking about. The Pentagon has been releasing different types of footages of these aerial vehicles doing things. And they've come out and said, hey, this is what we got. Make up your mind. We've had people come out in the military. They've actually seen it, saying, we don't have anything like this.
Yeah, well, I believe there's a couple of different theories for that. I believe the Pentagon kept a lot of this stuff secret so they could work on their weapons plans and special flying machines and anti-gravity stuff without being bothered by the public.
It would make sense, right? If let's make an assumption. Let's say the Roswell crash was real. Yeah. And of course, when it did crash, they had reputable witnesses. The military even said that they obtained the craft.
Right.
Then it all changed to a weather balloon or something.
Yeah.
I don't know I forget the whole thing, but it would be very important to national security to figure out if it was real, what it was, and they probably wouldn't disclose that to the public.
Well, then there's whistleblowers that have come out on their deathbed and admitted that there actually really was a crash and that they actually had a living being or that didn't make it, obviously, but it was at one point alive and it wasn't from here. So that whole theory that it was from another world or another realm holds water if you listen to what the whistleblowers were saying, and
including the military at the time.
Yeah.
So they get a hold. So we'll just go down this little rabbit hole here. So it would make sense they get it and then work on reverse engineering. So my thought is perhaps if that was true, they have been over the last 70 years or so able to reverse engineer some of the stuff, and perhaps some of these aerial phenomenon we're seeing are actually, hopefully, our own government's test vehicles based on this technology. What's your thought?
Well, I think that they have a lot more technology than we've ever known about, and they keep it secret from us. It's like free electricity and free energy and different cures for certain diseases.
They don't want cures.
Yeah,
if we go down that road, they want customers.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll just come out point blank. Do you think aliens exist?
My thought on it is a little different probably than yours. There's another whole flat Earth type of thing where beyond the ice wall in Antarctica, there's other worlds beyond it. And if there's other worlds beyond it, possibly we're on a much larger planet and we're just segregated from other planets. And those aliens or other beings could be coming from outside the ice wall. And there's maps in some of the encyclopedias predating 1950 or 1958, I think it is, where they show the firmament. The Bible discusses the firmament, which is supposedly a dome that encapsulates us. And that, beyond that, would be the ice wall. Beyond that would be the other worlds. So we're like a giant plateau with different sections of it. So I don't think that outer space is necessarily where aliens are coming from. We've got every single night, so we're spinning through space, surrounding the sun, and all of that. But I can see the same exact stars when I look up every night. So it makes sense that we're in the same place, but it's just on a much bigger scale. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of theories.
Now, how does I've heard the flat earthers, I've heard the firmament. Explain that to me, because I don't grasp it. I don't understand where, because they all talk about that as some sort of a central explanation of the flat Earth, or the potential for these levels or beyond the ice wall. And explain the ice wall after the firmament.
Well, the firmament is basically a dome that covers our plane or our existence where we are. And there's,
So everything we can see basically is that within this firmament.
I mean, even flight plans are meant to avoid certain pathways to take a flight plan because it would come in contact with the firmament. And so I don't know if any of this is real, but any other explanation for anything that we're being told by the government or the news or any of that stuff, that doesn't make any more sense than what the firmament's explanation would be. If we were in that situation, I mean, how do you explain the fact that the sun supposedly shines all through space to reach the Earth, but there's no light in space? That light would go all the way through space if it was to reach the Earth. And I mean, just a lot of stuff doesn't make sense.
Doesn't the light have to hit something in order for it to be perceived?
Well, I'm sure it's hitting asteroids and stars and getting reflection all the way there, if that was the case. And how does it, if we're racing through space at all this speed and we're rotating on a planet and the planet is rotating around the sun, how do you explain seeing the Milky Way every night? I mean, it's in the same place every day.
People are pretty passionate about this concept. It's not it's all over the internet.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got the astrophysicists, well-named, arguing it down to the science of it that nobody can understand anyways. But unless you're an astrophysicist, well, maybe you can, but I'm not smart enough to understand it.
Yeah.
Now, what's this ice wall? Now, I know that back when they mapped out the Antarctica, they said there was like something there. Yeah. And it was in the encyclopedias and everything, and then that got wiped.
Oh yeah. They wipe our history all the time. They tried doing it recently by taking down statues and anything that, went against the narrative. Yeah. So if we have something that we can learn from so that we don't make that mistake again, they'd rather keep it the way it's going, so that the elite or the people that have been around here the longest, that have a game plan to the game. They know how to play it better than anyone else.
Well, they've learned
to keep control.
They've learned that information is, in fact, the most valuable commodity. I mean, look at the big companies that have made trillions, if you add them all up, on just information alone. Yeah. They're not actually selling a physical product. They're selling advertisement based on information, based on opinions and all these kind of things.
Which is a pretty good residual income.
Yeah.
You put something out once, you get paid for it forever.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Yeah. So explain the ice wall. I don't that's a new one for me.
Well, there supposedly is an ice wall. And again, like, we're hearing information from all kinds of sources. And if you look into it and you read, you can find all kinds of information on it. The ice wall is supposedly blocks us off from going any further than where the firmament would come to meet the ground or to meet the plane. So on the other side of that ice wall, there's supposedly portals to get through the ice wall. And I can't remember the explorer who went down that Byrd, I think his name is, Admiral Byrd, or I think that's who it was. made it to the other side of the ice wall and said that there was other lands past the ice wall. And there's been certain planes that have flown off the flight plan and saw that there was stuff beyond this, exactly what it is, this giant wall of ice that basically keeps us in and where we are. So we can't go beyond.
Interesting. Then there's potentially, theoretically, creatures or aliens or some that can use those portals to come on into our existence and out.
Many other forms of life.
Would you think they're physical or different dimensional?
Could be just consciousness. Could be any form that maybe we don't know what we don't know, right? So who knows what it is? But I believe that, to get back to your question, I believe there is something else. I don't know exactly what it is. I believe that we've been kept in the dark as much as humanly possible to not know what's going on.
Excuse me. That's historical, right, Scott?
Yeah.
Those in power control the information, and feed the necessary information, so they can keep people in masses in control.
Well, it's the number one way for mind control.
Yeah,
is to
it's
just
historical.
Repeat.
Used to be,
repeat.
I mean, a religion originally, then governments. Religion being the original governments,
right?
Then governments and tyrannical governments,
right?
From non-tyrannical governments. It gets the history is full of this stuff, but. I would much rather believe that this technology is outside of human control and we maybe have tapped into it rather than another country having technology that we don't have. I mean, our own government saying, hey, well, no, we don't have that. That's outside of our technological prowess at this point. That'd be scary if it was another government that wasn't friendly to us that actually had this.
Right. Well, I think that as far as other governments, I think everyone has, like I've heard that there's certain areas, like in Iraq, supposedly, there's a portal which takes you to another dimension. And they're all over the world. I mean, they've now found pyramids everywhere in the world, everywhere on the planet, and even under the ocean through 3D imaging and
this
stuff.
New
like that.
LiDAR that they're using too.
Yeah.
Have you seen the latest on the pyramids?
Oh yeah,
in Egypt.
Yeah, full buildings underneath the ground.
Well, almost. I mean, making those almost based on what they're projecting. Those are just the tip of a massive structure that goes down 3 kilometers or something like this. Yeah. And what's interesting is the Egyptologists that have all the answers for the pyramids. They're discounting this. However, the same technology was used to find some other building underground, and it was only 50 meters underground, but it all laid out exactly the way that the LiDAR, I believe it's called LiDAR, described it. This is interesting. And the other thing now that we've kind of switched gears, sort of, I mean, we're still talking potential, alien or advanced technology.
Right.
In all of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, they don't have anything showing how they built the pyramids.
Right.
They don't show anything about them hauling stones, cutting stones, these massive structures, and they documented everything. Yeah. What? To me, if these were built by the Egyptian pharaohs for their glory, it would be documented very, very well.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
We today don't have the technology to move those stones.
Right. Well, again, they only tell us what they want us to know, including probably the hieroglyphics. Because if you were another more intelligent race, even back, you have to know that somewhere down the line somebody's going to find something. Let's put a lizard head on a pharaoh walking And there's many cases of that walking on the hieroglyphics, like a guy with a lizard head or some type of other being that's made to look like it's interacting with humans.
And the leaders carrying the purse. You've heard this, right? The purse, where they find this satchel in the leader's hands, or perceived leader in these hieroglyphs and things, in these pictographs all over the world.
Oh yeah.
In South America, everywhere. They and there's people out there that actually they go and look for areas that people haven't paid very close attention, looking for someone carrying that a satchel.
Well, those things are all meant to be erased from history so that we didn't have free energy, because supposedly in these pyramids there's ways of drawing energy from the atmosphere and converting it into free power.
What I found interesting is they're describing what potentially are coils.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And what's interesting, I'm in the trades.
Right.
What do you do?
In the trades.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in air conditioning.
Okay.
And part of that, you have to be very knowledgeable in electricity.
Right.
And what people don't realize about electricity is the power that turns the lights on is the magnetic force, electromagnetic force outside of the wire with the electrons that are just going back and forth unless it's DC.
Right.
This is why you take an amp meter to see the power, which is the amps, and you don't even have to touch the wire. You clamp it over the wire, and it'll tell you what kind of power that wire is producing or drawing, whatever load. And then they describe these coils that could potentially take in the magnetic energy of the Earth, and then that converts to electricity. That's how a transformer works. Takes electricity through a coil, through electromagnetic force, back to voltage.
Right. Exactly.
And it's kind of, when you look at this, I was going through it going, wow, if they had these huge columns that are bound in coil, any magnetic field will then turn into electricity at some sort of conductive end.
Right.
Tesla, not the company, but Tesla, Nikola Tesla, he had said, hey, there's so much energy here, we can just distribute it through the air for free.
Right.
And the powers that be, they're like, well, how can we put a meter on that? How can we charge people for it?
Right.
Well, no, you don't have to. It's free. There's so much free energy. I mean, we pretty much do it with even this podcast. Your cell phone, you're sending electrical signals through the atmosphere to your phone, downloading stuff all the time. You don't even see it. It's in the air.
Right.
But you can't put a meter on it. Well, you can't. Obviously, you can put a meter on it because they have a beginning and an end, but it's in the air.
Yeah.
So the coil thing on that intrigued me.
Yeah. Well, it's thought-provoking the minute you start thinking that it's not just in one place. It's literally everywhere. These basic power plants from the past. And they're trying to, get paid and siphon everything they can from us slaves, if you will, basically, because we are slaves to their energy sources and the design of how humanity interacts with each other now is all because of the plan that they laid out. Energy
is life.
Yeah.
You need energy. Remember I think it was in the 70s, Scott, there was a guy who invented a car that ran on water.
He was killed too, wasn't he?
He posted that, look, they're going to kill me. He ends up, dead somehow. I forget how he died, a heart attack or something. But apparently he could drive across the country on a tank of water.
Yeah.
Think about what water is. It's hydrogen and oxygen.
Right.
Okay, you have an oxidator and hydrogen. When you put them together, you get a massive amount of energy, and the byproduct is water vapor.
Right. Yeah.
Our planet's 75% water.
Right, and that's just you and I talking right now about the basics of how that could happen, and nobody thinks about it. Nobody thinks, they just pay their electric bill every month. They just pump gas into their car every month and complain that it's a few pennies higher this month than last month. It's about keeping us distracted while you're looking here, they're doing stuff over here.
And pretending that it's a limited resource.
Right.
Saying that it's all from
dinosaurs
and or any kind of organic living creature until they find a massive amount of hydrocarbons.
Right.
I believe on one of the moons of Saturn or somewhere in our own solar system. And it's like, okay, what is it, full of life up there?
Yeah.
They got more natural gas up there than we have here on Earth. I mean, when I hear stuff like this, it just my mind goes. I kind of look at it more macroscopically of. I believe in the more traditional view of the universe. Mm-hmm. Of course, I haven't actually been out there to look at it.
Right.
It's what we read and we're told. But it's so massive. If you were to just take our solar system,
right? So
it would take 200,000 years at the speed of light to go from one end of the Milky Way to the other end. Or it's 100,000 years. Or it's 100 or 2. I forget if it's 100,000 light years or 200. I'll look it up, guys. But regardless, and then there's billions of suns, and then they all probably have planets.
Right.
So trillions of planets.
Right.
So the trick is traversing that based on Einsteinian physics. Can't get to the speed of light, as according to his math. So, the odds of there being other civilizations to me is like, okay, that makes sense that there would be. But going back to the power source, so we talked at the beginning, information obviously is critical.
Yeah.
And energy, those two things. Right. Control those two things, and you can control a civilization.
Absolutely.
But I think the biggest eye-opener when I saw those coils, I'm just curious what they're going, because to excavate in Egypt requires, academia, PhDs, approval of the government, the quote-unquote professionals, experts, and most of those are saying, no, this is all BS. What they're seeing under the ground doesn't exist. And I'm looking at the pictures going, wow, this is kind of...
Well, why are we banned from doing anything in the Grand Canyon? They've supposedly found all kinds of Egyptian hieroglyphics and Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon. But we're not allowed to go in it.
I just heard this for the first time. Yeah. I never heard about this until I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're talking about how many people see where you're not allowed to fly, they see what looks like unmarked aircraft, traditional aircraft like helicopters and perhaps government aircraft that fly in these restricted areas in the Grand Canyon. I'm like, I never even heard of that.
Yeah, well, supposedly there's, and I was just watching it this morning actually. There's another podcast that I listen to. The guy is very knowledgeable about this and about precious metals and gold in particular and silver. And supposedly the Grand Canyon contains more gold than we have above ground now. And that's what they're keeping off limits.
They're keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. Well, they're keeping it off limits. They supposedly found caves with, like Raiders of the Lost Ark treasure in them that was all Egyptian. Why would that be in Arizona?
I always find it interesting of how much gold they find when they excavate Egypt and these areas, to the point you would think it was just everywhere.
Yeah.
Or they had technology pre-Egyptian on how to find this stuff really easy.
Yeah. Well, supposedly there's a lot more gold than we're aware of, and there's a lot less silver. So they've been suppressing the price of silver for 180 years or whatever, which is not going to happen much longer. So I have a feeling it's going to go much further.
I'm going to go buy a silver coin today.
Yeah.
What is that? Silver's about $32.
35 now.
35
It just went up the other day. So
I remember when it hit briefly, I think $46, like about 15, 20 years ago.
Well, that was after the Koch brothers decided they were going to corner the market in silver, and then they changed all the laws and basically put the Koch brothers out. So I I don't want to go too far off track here because I can
No,
go down a
have
whole
fun.
nother road.
We've got our tinfoil hats on. We're
Well,
allowed
the
to.
derivative market in banking is so far upside down on silver that it would kill the economy of the world if all of those derivatives were called in at once and people wanted their physical silver. There's not enough of it to go around. And it would.
So what are these derivatives being? What, like promissory
you can
notes?
sell 10. You can sell 10 ounces of silver if you have 1 ounce. So they've oversold the market into the billions and billions of dollars, and it's much worse than gold. That's why gold's gone up tenfold in 40 years, and silver's
It's up 50% in the last 10.
yeah, and silver's still right around $30.
Yeah, well, I was buying some silver at 12 and got excited when it hit like 18 and sold my silver.
Yeah,
And that was probably 10 or 15 years ago. But yeah, again, control, information. It's all perceived wealth. I guess the bigger tinfoil hat question is, why has gold been historically and worldwide valuable?
yeah.
Is there something we don't know about it? Because
don't
think
know
about what they use gold for.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as industrial,
Nothing.
they use it for some computer chips and things, but not at the extent that they hoard gold.
No, it's a store of value at this point.
Yeah.
basically.
So the biggest use for gold is jewelry.
Yeah, but the
But why
value
does it
of
hold
that
its?
jewelry.
Yeah, but why? That the question I have is, and I've always thought about it. Why is it why is there worldwide historical value? Why has it always been perceived as valuable? There must have been some lost knowledge, or there's knowledge about it.
Or there's altered history, like. And I feel like I'm jumping all over the place
Well,
because
it's fun.
everything's connected. So
It's actually there's kind of a linear path here where we're kind of talking about.
Trattoria
I don't know.
Trattoria was a civilization back again. There's evidence of it in maps and encyclopedias and everything predating a certain date. And then all of a sudden it's vanished. And there's no explanation of it. But Trattoria was a civilization that was extremely knowledgeable and had beautiful architectural buildings and in these pictures that have, in the past. But it's been basically eliminated from our history. And who writes history books? People that are doing their job, told by somebody else to trade time for money to just do it.
From the perspective of those people in power.
Exactly. I mean,
our history books look a lot different than Russia's history books and China's history books and Europe's history books.
Right. And the one constant that is in this country, the Bible, was written by a man or men or apostles that were, told to write it this way it may not have happened that way, but literally it becomes belief for everyone. And interpretation of that belief can vary so much that certain governments around the world decided, let's use an old strategy of divide and conquer and make this one mad at that one, and this God's better than that one. And that divide and conquer has kept us weak all along because we keep just fighting with each other.
Of information control and energy and manipulating billions and billions of people for thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands.
Right.
There's some people out there that believe that civilization is hundreds of thousands of years old. And we've had multiple ups and downs of civilization, perhaps catastrophic, impacts. Didn't it just kill the dinosaurs? Maybe there was civilization. Who knows?
Floods.
It's fun to think about.
Yeah. Well, everybody made fun of Noah until it started to rain. So
that's another interesting one that they're talking about in Turkey.
Right.
That area in Turkey that they've got. It's like the shape and dimensions of the ark from the Bible.
What is it, Mount Ararat or something?
Where that supposedly landed. But now they had done some soil testing, and they're saying that the soil is consistent of wood that has deteriorated.
Because that's what they told us.
And I guess they get a. You think it isn't wood?
I don't know. I think that they tell us what they want us to know in order to influence us to think in a certain direction. So I don't
Well, you're not even allowed. You can't even excavate or do anything out there.
Because you might find out the truth, right? The truth is what they're trying to hide, because that takes away their power.
You're right.
You know, if everybody was united and loved each other and knew that this was a certain way that it was, they'd have no power to confuse everybody and, you know, to instigate, you know, disagreements between this group of people and that.
Yeah, I think human beings deserve the right to know.
Right.
You know, especially in America, where our government is supposed to be working for us.
Yeah.
So all this disclosure and all this, I'm sorry, non-disclosure of things that are relevant to the people that are supposed to be running the government, the people.
Yeah.
You know, it's insane. But what would you say? Because everyone loves the word conspiracy theory, is your favorite and the one that you've gone down the deepest rabbit hole on?
Well, I think it was, first of all, conspiracy theory was a label from the CIA to become a derogatory term.
Oh, it's definitely,
so
definitely
that
become
whoever thinks that they have a different idea outside of the scheme of what happened, or whoever's the closest over the target, you know, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. Well, no, I'm a truth teller of my interpretation.
Or seeker.
Oh, yeah, or a seeker, right, exactly. But they don't want us to know. And I think that having that label of conspiracy theorist mitigated anything that you knew. You know, he's a quack. You know,
of course.
That can be in any. They've used it in medical. They've used it in wealth, economics, anything that they don't want you to know about. Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. That's not ever going to happen.
You're the most dangerous man in the world,
right? You know, or who shot Kennedy when that came out? Oh, he's a conspiracy theorist. There was, you know, there's a man in the window. There's a guy on the grassy knoll. I mean, those things have all influenced the way people think and what they believe.
Right.
Right. Oh, but it may be the God's honest truth, what I'm saying, but because so many people are now or repeating the saying, oh, he's a conspiracy, he's just a quack now. He doesn't deserve to even be listened to.
Well, that's the beauty of these podcasts, because the legacy media has basically destroyed their reputation, their credibility. Yeah. They've spoken the company line. They've lied.
Yeah.
And now you have all of these independent broadcasters who just talk to people and get a ton of different opinions.
Right.
What's great about this is we'll get a bunch of comments of people going, yeah, I read this and did that. And
right.
Scott, I see what he's saying here. And you get other people, oh, that guy's a kook and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I heard it on legacy media. That's not true.
Right.
You know, the problem is that a lot of people go, yeah, I heard this from the media and it proved not to be true.
Right.
And they made it as factual as possible.
Right.
So there's the eyes are opening. The veil is being pulled. It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Until the open discourse, which is critical, starts to disclose some of these things that have been labeled conspiracy theory. The other thing is technology and information, right? Everyone's got a cell phone in their pocket.
Yeah.
They're documenting stuff. So,
well, the level of consciousness of everyone is rising to a level that it can't stay hidden when everyone is finding different thoughts and evidence that something else may have occurred, or something else, it may be different than the way I've heard it, you know, and then they investigate it or go down this rabbit hole themselves, and it's, wait a minute, there's a lot more evidence here than I thought. Maybe this is true. Maybe what they've been telling me is a lie.
Well, and they're also setting it up to where there's like the discourse is important, because you'll be able to get a lot of people who have normally been shut up, labeled as conspiracy theorists, or labeled as, hey, the most dangerous person in the world, or whatever they label people to keep them quiet. You're getting this discourse where people are actually talking and saying, yeah, you know what, I saw that too. Yeah, you know what, that actually happened to me.
Yeah.
And all of these different things. How do you think AI is going to affect all of this because
I think it can be either deathly or deadly dangerous, or if done in the right way and with a feeling of love and kindness for humanity, could be vastly improved. So it could be a really dangerous thing, or it could be a really great thing.
I think we'll see both.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see both. Did you see that thing where I think it's ChatGPT 4.0?
Yeah.
And they're looking to release 5.0.
Right.
And the creators are saying, hey, look, 5.0 is going to make 4.0 look like a baby, or I don't know the exact term. Basically incompetent. It's not going to be a small change in it.
Right.
It's going to be huge when they released ChatGPT 5. And then they admitted that when ChatGPT 4 found out they were going to shut it down,
Right.
it started rewriting its own code
Right.
to try to stay
Yeah.
relevant.
Yeah, I saw that, and that kind of reminds me of a theory that I've heard quite a long time ago, and I read some about it, that we are basically a simulation, living a simulation, or we're like just a big video game. But if you look, say there's another civilization or another life force outside of us that's been around for 1,000 years more than us. We were playing Pong 25 years ago on a video game. Now, if you play, Grand Theft Auto or one of those other, it's like you're literally on the TV screen.
And those VR headsets.
In 25 years.
Yeah.
So imagine how far ahead that other civilization would be 1,000 years in the future. And they created this simulation.
Elon Musk
Yeah.
believes that there's a good chance this is a simulation.
David Icke as well. There's many of them that are, David Icke's a huge conspiracy theorist
I'll have to look him up.
with a lot of truth. So Elon is very AI pro. So he's pushing for more of the stuff that
He is also concerned about it too, though.
with good reason. Yeah. I mean, I think that it can be deadly dangerous, but
I can see how it can be both good and bad. And
Yeah.
the bad's going to come from the power seekers
right,
and the thought controllers.
which are many.
Yeah. And the idea at the level that AI is now is it is programmed by people. If it ever becomes autonomous, where does it go with that?
Right.
Does it actually quote unquote start thinking? I love the simulation theory because I just was introduced to it probably this last year.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, simulation. But the more they explained and talked about it, kind of similar to what you said, is look where we've gone in 20 years.
Yeah.
My son and I got these VR headsets. Okay. And the latest one that I think Meta came out with or something. He's up in he was going to college. It was a few years back. I put this thing on. Him and I sit in a movie theater room. Literally, his avatar's sitting next to me. We're throwing fake popcorn at each other.
Yeah.
And we're watching a movie that we purchased on the platform together.
Yeah.
800, 900 miles away or 1,000 miles away. And there's a point where you actually get sucked into it where that's actually where you're at.
Right. Yeah.
And then now they're talking about putting, sensors and things to where you can actually like reach out, and if the other person's wearing the sensor, you can feel them touch and things like that. And then you have this Neuralink thing where they're going to be able to input. They're integrating into computers this guy that now he has ALS or a really terrible disease, but he's able to communicate with his kids now.
Right.
Play video games with them, all with the Neuralink transmitter.
Right.
I mean, that's brand new. Can you imagine?
That's huge evidence as to how amazing it could be, being somebody that's like that can now communicate with their kids, or somebody that can do something really deadly with it. You know what I mean? So I don't even like the term regulation or modification of how much you can do or whatever. It's just all taking away freedoms. But once that is out there, it's out there for anyone to do.
But you can't uninvent it.
Right.
It's like, it's like weapons and
Yeah.
guns and nuclear.
Yeah.
You can't, it's been invented.
Yeah.
So, you can't wipe it from everybody.
No.
So those that don't understand what simulation theory is, could you explain that and what they are, what people are potentially saying?
Well, basically, we're living a video game, basically. And the movie The Matrix was a documentary, not an actual movie. I mean, that's the simulation. You're living inside of this AI-generated reality, and we're just part of it. And I guess it has merit, but being a human and thinking we have free will and all, you don't want to believe that could possibly.
So here's something I used to think about a lot, even as a young person, is I would think, what actually makes me me? Right. And I think I thought about this one time when I saw a Vietnam vet or something that had lost his legs. And I thought, well, besides the trauma, of course,
Right.
it's still Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, if I lost my leg to something,
Right.
I would still be me.
Right.
Then what if I lost both legs? It'd still be me. What if I lost my arms? It'd still be me. At what point, besides, does it not become me? And then here's another interesting one that was amazing to me is when Stephen Hawking was able to start talking. So he got that disease in life.
Right.
So he was a genius before.
Yeah.
Then he gets it. But let's assume you met him for the first time when he's already in his wheelchair and he can't talk. The assumption would be, well, that's who he is. But he's still himself inside his brain.
Right.
So physically, the avatar isn't working according to design.
Right.
But what's living in the brain, what is that? And I would say, a lot of people call it the soul.
Yeah.
And this is just the machine the soul works within.
Right. The best way that I have heard this described is your essence. So if you were a lemon and somebody took away the peel, you could still smell it. If somebody took away the rest of the lemon, you would still smell the essence or the remaining essence of the lemon, or a lime, or a can of paint. Everything's vibrating at a certain frequency, so everything basically lives, in a physics type of explanation. But your essence lives on. I just read a thing about how some Russian scientist had measured the weight of a dying body, and he was able to record the soul leaving, or the essence leaving the body.
Yeah, I think it was like 7 grams or something like that.
Right.
I read something about that a long time ago.
So, I mean, if that's the case, then we never die. We just transmute or shift into another state, another vibrational frequency of existence. And
do you believe that you could be reborn into another human?
I believe,
like reincarnation.
I believe that we could. Yeah.
Like, hey, what? I'm gonna. I enjoyed that so much. I'm gonna go ahead and have a choice now. What game do you want to play now? I want to play this one over here.
Yeah. Well, they say that you're learning. The part of the whole thing is learning to be better in the simulation. You're going to keep coming back, and until you get it right.
Yeah, and
there's a guy named Greg Braden, who's a brilliant guy, and he said quite a while ago, before I really started delving into some of this stuff, that he said, "Look, we're all starting to get it. All you have to do is get to this state of enlightenment where you actually are happy and and content with your own being of who you really are. You actually know who you are. Oh, I'm not just a builder, or I'm not just an electrician. I'm who I am as an entity. Once you're to that point, all you have to do is lift the veil, and you're in heaven on earth. So he's a really interesting guy, and I've done a lot of studying on stuff that he puts out. So I believe that our essence goes on, and I don't think there's just blackness.
Well, physics talks about energy can't be created nor destroyed.
Right. And I heard it explained the other day that we are, say there's a splash of water and a droplet is up in the air. That's us, the droplets. And when we are on our way back down into death, we splash back into consciousness, which is the ocean. So it's a brief time that we're up in the air learning and gathering information and feeling emotion and all of those things that you wouldn't necessarily have as an essence. You couldn't feel, oh, I smashed my thumb with a hammer, but you're gaining all that experience, and then you're dropped back into the consciousness of the one.
And do you think that consciousness stays intact, like your consciousness as Scott stays intact for eternity, or do you think it gets dispersed?
Watered down, you mean?
Yeah, watered down. And
I think that you always remain you. And that's just maybe it's my wish, that I would always have that part of me that is, nobody can be you like you are yourself. Somebody can imitate you, but they can't be who you are. They don't know your inner desires and thoughts, and like you do. They can copy you, emulate, the way you walk, talk, dance, any of those things, but they can't be who you are as a being. So all of it has been grossly mutated into some other form of something if you don't stay attached to that feeling of I'm unique in the world, And I think that we, if we weren't given that choice, then why would it matter, right? So it just makes I'm really black and white, I guess, to what I think of something. Once I get some bit of evidence that I can make sense of, and back it up with something else that I've read, and I am a voracious reader, or I used to be before I got a little older now, and every time I open a book, I fall asleep now.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, that's going to be what I'm doing now. But I would read 20 different books on any particular subject, and the common denominator throughout is what I would latch on to, and everything else may be white noise, but you know what? 20 different people that have really studied this phenomenon or this event or way of doing something, all believed that the same thing was a possibility, or the same thing was a reality. Maybe there's something to that, and then dig in deeper to that one particular thing.
Right, and that is the basis of scientific method.
Right.
Which we have scientific method and we have the science.
Right.
Two different things. And the thing that really, when podcasts started blowing up, is a lot of the science shut down scientific method.
Right.
So people that were being shut down in the scientific communities and medical communities, they found a voice. And these are well-educated people and discussing why we've been misled with the science and what the truth is. And you take all of these opinions of well-educated people, just like all those books, and you start seeing common denominators.
Right.
First of all, we see the control, and then we see the reality.
Right.
And it takes time, but eventually the reality wins. It's only going to win, though, with people getting on microphones.
Oh, absolutely.
And allowing more people to discuss the whole spectrum, right? The guy way over here that's going okay, and the guy way over here saying the opposite, and then everyone in the middle, and then the discourse. And within all that discourse, there is truth.
Right.
And the other thing about science, which is interesting, is that scientific fact is only based on the most current evidence.
Right.
You know, it's what they have with all the information they have at this particular point in time. This is the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back, and then you have consensus. Well, consensus has been wrong since the beginning of consensus.
Right.
I mean, there was consensus that we are the center of the universe, the Earth, and if you didn't believe that, they'd kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, witches, yeah.
And there was consensus about, witches, and consensus even in America that African Americans weren't even 100% human,
right,
or a man,
yeah,
so they couldn't even vote.
Yeah.
It was all right to have slavery. These were perfectly good, normal
right,
consensus.
Yeah.
And based on the zeitgeist of the time. Well, this stuff gets thrown out as we get more and more and more knowledge. It goes, no, that was wrong. That was wrong. That was wrong. That was wrong. Your Newtonian physics was it.
Right.
Until Einstein came around
right,
and redefined some of it.
Right.
What's the next epiphany?
Right. So I feel like the game that they set up, we have, you especially doing your own podcast and getting information and truth or a different opinion out to the masses is kind of like our own peer-reviewed study, right? That they use in the medical establishment to tell us that a bunch of doctors, in parentheses, that are backed by drug companies, a bunch of doctors are telling us that this is the study and this is how it was done and this is what's going to be it. And boom, that's carved in stone. That's the end of it.
That's the end of it.
Well, we're going to do our own peer-reviewed study based on the analysis that we've done by reading medical opinions of the Hopi Indians and reading a book by a naturopath or reading many books by an iridologist who does studies of the eyeballs and why certain yellow in your eyes is meaning you have a liver problem, or ridges in your fingernails means you have a cardiovascular problem, or whatever else. But in combination, over the vast length of information that we have, we can gather that information and put it all together and basically create a peer-reviewed study by the actual peers of other people in humanity. And maybe that would work better than pumping poison through a port into your chest. You know what I'm saying? I think the results of some of those things are worse than the actual disease.
Well, yeah, and there's not a medication on the planet that doesn't have side effects.
Right.
Okay. And you mentioned about the medical profession. I mentioned on the podcast before my practice wife, my first wife. She worked for a large pharmaceutical company. And at a Christmas party, they had come out with a blockbuster drug for a type of cancer.
Yeah.
And the CEO, in front of everyone, and I'm standing there, says, I heard a lot of people are talking about the C word. And I'm thinking, cussing words? I know a C word we're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
And he says, we don't use the word cure.
Right.
They're not interested in that.
No.
The best things that they can do is find a relatively good, safe therapeutic that they can put on you as young as possible and have you as a customer for life.
Right.
The sad thing is that they're in bed with the FDA, and they've got the doctors basically as people. They don't do nutrition.
Right. No.
They
have like 12 hours of study.
Yeah,
on
you
nutrition,
get
it.
5 minutes in front of a doctor now.
Yeah.
10 minutes if you're lucky. Spend more time in the waiting room and with the nurse than you do with the doctor. What are your symptoms? Here's a pill.
Yep.
Here's 4 more pills.
Yeah.
They don't ask you, what's your diet? What is your exercise? What kind of food are you eating? What are your triggers? Maybe get into some of the psychology of an unhealthy lifestyle. Nope. Get you on this medication. Got a customer for life.
Right. Well, they're going to treat the symptom, and that treating of the symptom is now going to create a side effect that creates another symptom, which they'll then treat that, which will in turn do the same thing. And pretty soon you're on 6 different pills because you had high blood pressure. Now you can't get it up. So you're taking the pill for the high blood pressure, then you're taking Viagra because that doesn't work from that medication, or the diabetes medicine that you're on, all because you're eating poison food to begin with that causes you to be in a situation where you're unhealthy and your immune system is compromised, or your organs aren't working properly. And it's just a vicious cycle that goes on and on and on and on.
But we've been trained, Scott, to almost hold in reverence the intellects.
Oh yeah.
Okay, whether it's our professors, our government, the doctors. Hardly. I mean, I have grandkids now.
Yeah.
I tell my daughters, ask the doctor what vaccines they're giving you, what's necessary, what's the reason. I think there's like 72 vaccines now they give a child from birth to 18.
Yeah.
And they're doing something now where they want to try to speed that process up. We'll let RFK Jr. figure that one out because I'm curious, how good they're doing. But you never know. There's not a lot of scientific clinical studies that they can do with these things.
Well, they're not required to either.
Well, they're protected.
Yeah.
That's something that happened in the 80s under Ronald Reagan, believe it or not. And they wanted more vaccines. Pharmaceutical companies said, well, no, they're too dangerous to make.
Yeah.
Just based on how, I guess it's a difficult process and the way they have to test these things. Right. So they went ahead and gave immunity. Said, okay, well, make as many as you can. You can't be held liable.
Right. Well, and
I wish I can create a product like that.
Exactly.
I'd have about 20 of them out today.
Exactly. And that, what you just said, as far as reverence toward, the intellectual professors or whatever, is basically what we were talking about earlier. They're indoctrinated because they've gone through this repetitive drilling of information, not even wisdom. It's basically information from a book that they control what's in it. And all of a sudden now they're an expert. Basically, it's like putting the kid in charge of the cookie jar. Eventually he's going to start eating the cookies. And
then the regulators are in bed with the pharmaceutical companies who then are paying the salaries of the hospitals and the doctors.
Yeah.
It's incestuous.
And this indoctrination spreads into our own kids. I mean, my 2 kids are vastly different. And they weren't when they were little. I mean, basically they were just 2 little girls. And now one was in the military, the other was in college. The one in college is vastly different than the one that was in the military. And there's no altering what she thinks at all.
Well, colleges have for years been nothing but cesspools of, first of all, number one, taking advantage of free government loans that they give to kids like candy. Yeah. So they take advantage of those. I don't go on a college campus that isn't building a new building.
Right.
And then they're pumping out degrees that don't pay anything. Yeah. Because they don't have time to actually teach anything that pays stuff. They are sitting there telling you how to think. Exactly. And if you don't, I mean, you see reports all the time of kids that are scared to actually write a report about an actual opinion. Yeah. Because they don't want to get a bad grade. So they actually have to lie about what they actually believe so they can submit to a professor who is teaching dogma and basically indoctrination. It's fallen apart in their faces. And it's sad because the victims are the kids.
I just saw a comedian on TV the other day, and he was like 85 years old, and he's got up, and his opening line was, "Well, I just finished off paying my student loans."
That's right.
And I mean, you're not actually making money for 20 years after you get out of college, even if you're in the field that you actually took.
Something like 80% of the people graduating college do not enter a field that they studied for. The ROI on college degrees is limited very much to engineers, actually teachers.
Yeah.
The nursing field, medical field.
Right.
These are hard degrees to get.
Yeah.
And then you see somebody calling up a radio show who's got $60,000, $80,000 in student loan debt, and they're like, "Well, what's your degree? Why aren't you working in the industry?" "Well, I got a sociology degree."
Yeah.
Well, I believe strongly that they should say, "This is you want to get a sociology degree? Great. This is what the market pays. These are the types of careers you can have with that.
Right.
You're gonna make $35,000 a year or 40 or wherever. Who knows? I'm just making those numbers up." And by the way, it's going to cost you $100,000 to get it.
Right.
And you're going to be paying interest on it the rest of your life. And based on this, your average payoff is 20 years. Or most people don't, or have to file bankruptcy, which, by the way, student loans don't get thrown into bankruptcy.
Right. Well, or the one person is making more tending bar at night than they are doing what the person that went to school for 5 years.
Well, I'm in the trades. You're in the trades.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's a fulfilling thing. You're serving people all the time. You're getting paid in an apprenticeship to start.
Right.
So, and trade schools are out there, and they're not terribly expensive.
Yeah.
And we are begging for people. I'm in the HVAC business. We're begging to find talent.
Right.
And it's a 6-figure income when you're a journeyman, easily in the trades.
Yeah.
So to go and take this college route where they aren't actually putting out productive students.
Right.
I'm sorry, productive members of society, but pumping out
opinionated.
Well, I don't mind the opinionated as much as the fact that they've been taught to look inward instead of outward.
The thing that I don't like is they're very closed off. They don't seem to want to hear any other opinion.
Well, because they weren't allowed to.
Right.
Critical thinking was shut down a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was encouraged. See, colleges used to be a place where it was encouraged to have social discourse. And when I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was fun. Sit down with my friends of different opinions, and have a beer, and well, not really. Well, I won't say what age, but we would sit down and over pizza and just debate,
right?
And then the next day go play golf,
right?
What the heck?
Yeah,
it's gone now.
No,
it's funny. Those that teach intolerance are the most intolerant.
You got that right.
It's sad.
Yeah.
And you see it on these campuses. It makes my stomach sick. Yeah. And this is the future.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's.
Well, hey, listen. I'll tell you something. Maybe it is a simulation, and when it's game over, we wake up and they say, "Okay, what a fun game. Do you want to play that one again, or do you want to go play this one on the other side of the universe?"
Right.
This is how this game works over here.
Yeah. This one's disconnected.
And we're going to take your essence and put them in over here. Or you say, I had a pretty good run over there on planet Earth. Oh, I wonder if you guys can hear the thunder. We're in South Carolina, and they got a big thunderstorm coming in.
What we're talking about.
It's coming through. And, maybe that's what they do. And they say, hey, let me give another run of that humanity. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're probably not too far off.
Yeah. That's what I get out of the simulation when people talk about it. It's like, okay, game over. Okay, next game.
Yeah.
Which simulation want me to plug you into this time?
Yeah. We'll go back and watch the Matrix again with a different viewpoint.
Well, anyone who wants some more information on these wonderful tin hat conversations, it was a lot of fun, but we're running out of time. But Scott,
yes,
it was fun, man.
Yeah.
I had a good time. I could talk to you for hours and hours on this kind of stuff.
Well, maybe we'll do it again.
Oh, I'll be back. I'll be back. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Real People, Real Life. Our passion is to have real conversations with real people who've made it. Real people who've made it, who did it on their own terms. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, catch us on Twitter or X at RPRL Podcast and on YouTube at Real People, Real Life Podcast.